It rose without warning, black against the horizon, higher than clouds, higher than thought itself. Some say it was never built, only revealed. Do not search for it. Do not film it. If your eyes linger even for seconds, it will mark you. I woke to a sound like the sky itself had cracked. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, face blazing with the amber strip of an emergency alert. The voice was flat, mechanical, drained of everything human. This is not a test. Do not look at the tower. Repeat, do not look at the tower. I sat up, still tangled in blankets. A tower? What tower? My sister cracked the door, eyes wide, her phone clutched like a lifeline. The same words scrolled across her screen, repeating with every shrill buzz. It's on every channel, she said, voice tight. Mom's freaking out downstairs. Before I could answer, the world itself seemed to vibrate. A siren groaned through the neighborhood, warped and low, rattling the windows. We hurried down. The living room glowed with the TV's black and white crawl. Do not look at the tower. Mom stood frozen before it, remote shaking in her hand. Outside, neighbors spilled into the street. I caught a glimpse of them craning upward toward the skyline, then yanked the blinds shut. Don't, I said, my chest hammering. They said not to look. Dad clattered down the stairs, boots half-laced. We need to see what's out there. Can't just sit blind. Are you insane? Mom hissed, clutching his arm. You heard the warning. Another alert cut through the walls, louder, drilling into my teeth. Do not look at the tower. Beneath it, a low hum crawled into my bones. My phone buzzed nonstop. News clips, live streams, group chats, everyone asking the same thing, what tower? Against my better judgment, I tapped a live stream. A guy pointed his camera at the skyline. The frame jerked, then froze. His eyes rolled back, his jaw dropped slack. A choking sound burst from him, and the feed went black. I slammed the phone face down on the table. Don't watch, I muttered. Too late. My sister's hand clamped over her mouth. Outside, a scream cut the night short, jagged, then silenced. A helicopter roared overhead, its speaker crackling. Stay indoors. Do not approach windows. Do not look at the tower. Mom locked the door. Dad paced like a caged animal, muttering, first they hide it, now they muzzle us. Can't trust a word. His anger sounded thin, brittle. I barely heard him. The hum was louder now, pulsing through the pipes, matching my heartbeat. Basement, I said. My voice scraped raw. Away from the windows. We dragged blankets and flashlights downstairs. The unfinished walls smelled of dust and detergent. I kept my hands busy, pulling boxes against vents, checking cracks in the foundation. The routine gave me something solid to hold, but the broadcast kept drilling through the TV. Do not look at the tower. We sat in the glow, silent. Finally, my sister whispered, what if you already saw it? Just for a second? Then you don't admit it, Dad snapped. His glare cut sideways, suspicion dripping off him. She flinched. Mom pulled her close, eyes darting between us like she was waiting for someone to break. The next alert brought new words. Do not attempt photography. Do not attempt video transmission. Exposure is contagious. Do not look at the tower. The word contagious sank into me like ice. Even an image could kill. Upstairs, glass shattered. We froze. Heavy steps pounded pavement outside, neighbors shouting, some in voices not their own. The hum swelled, not just outside anymore, inside, filling my skull. I pressed my palms over my ears. It didn't help. Then the basement lights cut out, snapping us into dark. My sister's breath hitched against my sleeve. The alert still bled through, muffled but constant. from every device upstairs. Do not look at the tower. I told myself it was simple, just don't look. But with every pulse of static, every vibration crawling deeper into the house, one thought gnawed at me. How can I not look at something that wants me this badly? The dark pressed close, heavy as wet soil. I kept one hand on my sister's arm, the other gripping my phone even though I didn't want to look. This buzz lit the floor in sick flashes. "Turn it off," Mom whispered. I should have, but curiosity gnawed harder than fear. I flipped it over, brightness low. Group chats flooded with the same links. People swearing they had proof. One line burned my eyes. "Live stream. They're lying." I tapped it. A kid my age stared into his camera, sweat dripping down his jaw. "Scare tactics," he sneered. "It's just a building. Look." He swung the camera to his window. There it was, a jagged pillar cut into the skyline, glowing pale, taller than any skyscraper. Its surface shimmered like stretched skin over something moving beneath. The kid chuckled, then snapped. His chair toppled as his body writhed, blood streaming from his ears and nose. His face blurred into static before the feed went black. My gut seized. I killed the screen too late. The afterimage burned behind my eyes. "Jake?" my sister whispered. "I didn't look," I said. The lie scraped my throat. Something pounded our front door upstairs. 3 blows, then silence. Dad tightened his grip on the flashlight. Neighbors, or what's left. The TV in the corner flickered on by itself, voice slicing through static. "Do not spread visual contact. Do not transmit recordings. Exposure multiplies. Do not look at the tower." Mom clutched her temples. "Why keep saying it if it doesn't help?" "Because curiosity kills faster than bullets," Dad snapped. His glare pinned me like he knew I'd seen more than I should. Another feed buzzed on my phone, thumbnail frozen on a crowd staring skyward. Thousands watching, commenting. Screams echoed faintly outside, as if the whole block tuned in. The hum deepened, not just a vibration, resonance. It hollowed my chest, pulled the air from my lungs. My sister pressed her palms to her head, whispering, "It's inside me." I wrapped an arm around her. "Don't listen. Don't think about it." But the warning itself fed temptation. Every "don't look" made the word look louder. I forced myself to move, stacked boxes against window wells, shoved blankets under the cracks in the door. The routine steadied me, small defenses against something too big to fight. The flashlight sputtered. Dad shook it, shadows jerking across the wall. His face looked carved out of stone, jaw trembling. A knock rattled the basement window. Deliberate. My heart slammed to a stop. The blinds we'd taped over the glass shifted. A thin stripe of pale light leaked through. Then a voice. "Come see. It's beautiful." Mom's nails dug into my arm. My sister whimpered. Dad whispered, "Don't move. Don't answer." The voice warped, layered with others, deep and wrong. "Come see. Join us." The blinds fluttered, then stilled. Silence stretched, broken only by the hum swelling harder, pressing into my skull. I wanted to rip the blinds down to see what called me. My fists clenched till nails drew blood. "We can't stay down here forever," I muttered. No one answered. Time dragged, heavy as wet sand. The basement reeked of dust and sweat. My sister finally broke the quiet. "What if it doesn't stop growing?" The thought already lived in all of us. Then the next alert hit, louder, sharper. "Containment compromised. Remain sheltered. Do not attempt escape. Do not look at the tower." The words froze me. Compromised. That meant it wasn't just outside, it was everywhere. Dad barked a laugh brittle as glass. Containment. Too late. The sound cracked something in me. Hope drained like water through my hands. The flashlight died for good. Darkness swallowed us, the hum pressing in like a tide. I tried to pretend my hands shaking over dead batteries was a useful task, but it felt like stacking sandbags against a flood. Above us, sirens howled. A helicopter roared past, shaking the house. The speaker didn't carry words anymore, only that guttural resonance, stretched into something almost human. The walls trembled, my ears filled with blood. My sister sobbed against me, and I understood. The alerts weren't warnings. They were negotiations. Every don't look was the tower whispering look. And sooner or later, one of us would. By morning, the hum hadn't stopped. It throbbed through the floorboards, low and steady, like the house itself had a heartbeat. My tongue felt coated with grit, lungs raw from breathing it in all night. Dad cracked the basement hatch an inch. Engines thundered outside, boots striking pavement. He shut it fast, shoulders rigid. Military. A convoy rattled past, loudspeakers blaring. Stay indoors. Do not approach windows. Do not look at the tower. The voice sounded filtered, metallic, but buried under it was that same unnatural resonance, as if the tower had threaded itself through their machines. Mom clutched her robe tight. They're here to help. Dad's laugh was short, bitter. They're here to keep us penned in. I didn't argue. The tone didn't sound like salvation. It sounded like warning dressed as obedience. We couldn't last on what we had. The basement smelled of old laundry and stale water. Bread had already gone green. My sister's stomach growled loud enough to fill the silence. I'll go, I said before sense caught up. Mom's head snapped toward me. Absolutely not. If we don't get food, we die anyway. Dad studied me, jaw clenched. 1 hour. Keep your head down. Don't look up. I nodded, though bile rose in my throat. The street looked abandoned mid-step. Cars sat idling with doors open, groceries spilled across sidewalks. A stroller lay tipped over near the curb, blanket still inside. From above, helicopters dropped leaflets that twirled like black snow. One skidded across my shoe. I picked it up, paper hot from the press. Mandatory directive. Do not look at the tower. Do not record, photograph, or reflect the tower. Do not speak of what you see. Failure to comply is punishable by exposure. The words crawled under my skin. Exposure wasn't punishment, it was sentence. A crude black stamp glared at me from the bottom. An I crossed out. No logos, no agency. Just authority without a face. I shoved it in my pocket and moved faster. The grocery store's glass doors hung open. Inside, the shelves were gutted, wrappers ground into the floor, milk pooling into sour puddles. A cart stood abandoned mid-aisle, a child's stuffed bear tossed beside it. I grabbed whatever remained, beans, crackers, bottled water. My bag sagged heavy. Then I saw it. Not the tower itself, its reflection. A fractured window pane warped the skyline. In its cracks, the tower bent wrong, its pale surface rippling as though it pressed forward through the glass. My breath hitched. The pull came sharp, magnetic, dragging at the corners of my vision. Don't look, I whispered, tearing away. I threw my sleeve across my face and staggered out, pulse hammering. Dad ripped the bag from me the moment I returned, checking cans with shaking hands. Sealed. Good. Mom seized my arm, nails digging. Tell me, what did you see? Noting, elite. My voice cracked, betraying me. Dad's stare lingered. He didn't push. We ate in silence, hunched around open cans. The beans were cold and metallic, but they filled the gnawing ache in my gut. For a few minutes, we almost looked like a family again. Then the floor shivered. Dust rained from the rafters, the sound deeper than any engine. The hum had shifted slower, heavier, like something enormous shifting under the earth. My sister clamped her hands over her ears. "It's growing," she whispered. No one corrected her. The next broadcast slammed through every device at once. TV, radios, even the dead clock on the microwave sputtered to life. The voice had dropped deeper, stretched, barely human. "Shelter is temporary. Do not trust glass, mirrors, or screens. Reflections spread contagion. Do not look at the tower." Mom shoved the TV off the shelf. It shattered across the concrete, sparks spitting. "No more. I won't hear it anymore." Dad crouched, picking up a shard. His reflection glared back at him, warped and pale. He flinched, dropped it quick. We tore through the basement, covering everything reflective, mirrors, photo frames, even the metal clock face. Blankets, tape, cardboard. By the end, the room looked blind. But the air still carried that low chant. When the others dozed, I sat awake, knees pulled to my chest. The leaflet burned in my pocket. I unfolded it again, tracing the black stamped eye. "Failure to comply is punishable by exposure." Punishment, exposure. The words tangled, meaningless and absolute. My gaze slid to the covered window. Behind the blinds, faint light pulsed in rhythm with my heart. What if all these rules weren't for safety, but to keep us docile? What if looking was the only way to understand? I clenched the leaflet until it tore in my hands. The hum answered with a slow, steady beat, patient as breathing to be why morning. The hum hadn't stopped. It throbbed through the floorboards, low and steady, like the house itself had a heartbeat. My tongue felt coated with grit, lungs raw from breathing it in all night. Dad cracked the basement hatch an inch. Engines thundered outside, boots striking pavement. He shut it fast, shoulders rigid. Military. A convoy rattled past, loudspeakers blaring. "Stay indoors. Do not approach windows. Do not look at the tower." The voice sounded filtered, metallic, but buried under it was that same unnatural resonance, as if the tower had threaded itself through their machines. Mom clutched her robe tight. "They're here to help." Dad's laugh was short, bitter. "They're here to keep us penned in." I didn't argue. The tone didn't sound like salvation. It sounded like warning dressed as obedience. We couldn't last on what we had. The basement smelled of old laundry and stale water. Bread had already gone green. My sister's stomach growled loud enough to fill the silence. "I'll go," I said before sense caught up. Mom's head snapped toward me. "Absolutely not. If we don't get food, we die anyway." Dad studied me, jaw clenched. "1 hour. Keep your head down. Don't look up." I nodded, though bile rose in my throat. The street looked abandoned mid-step. Cars sat idling with doors open, groceries spilled across sidewalks. A stroller lay tipped over near the curb, blanket still inside. From above, helicopters dropped leaflets that twirled like black snow. One skidded across my shoe. I picked it up, paper hot from the press. Mandatory directive. Do not look at the tower. Do not record, photograph, or reflect the tower. Do not speak of what you see. Failure to comply is punishable by exposure. The words crawled under my skin. Exposure wasn't punishment, it was sentence. A crude black stamp glared at me from the bottom. An I crossed out. No logos, no agency. Just authority without a face. I shoved it in my pocket and moved faster. The grocery store's glass doors hung open. Inside, the shelves were gutted. Wrappers ground into the floor, milk pooling into sour puddles. A cart stood abandoned mid-aisle, a child's stuffed bear tossed beside it. I grabbed whatever remained: beans, crackers, bottled water. My bag sagged heavy. Then I saw it. Not the tower itself, its reflection. A fractured window pane warped the skyline. In its cracks, the tower bent wrong, its pale surface rippling as though it pressed forward through the glass. My breath hitched. The pull came sharp, magnetic, dragging at the corners of my vision. "Don't look," I whispered, tearing away. I threw my sleeve across my face and staggered out, pulse hammering. Dad ripped the bag from me the moment I returned, checking cans with shaking hands. "Sealed. Good." Mom seized my arm, nails digging. "Tell me, what did you see?" "Nothing, Elite." My voice cracked, betraying me. Dad's stare lingered. He didn't push. We ate in silence, hunched around open cans. The beans were cold and metallic, but they filled the gnawing ache in my gut. For a few minutes, we almost looked like a family again. Then the floor shivered. Dust rained from the rafters, the sound deeper than any engine. The hum had shifted slower, heavier, like something enormous shifting under the earth. My sister clamped her hands over her ears. "It's growing," she whispered. No one corrected her. The next broadcast slammed through every device at once. TV, radios, even the dead clock on the microwave sputtered to life. The voice had dropped deeper, stretched, barely human. "Shelter is temporary. Do not trust glass, mirrors, or screens. Reflections spread contagion. Do not look at the tower." Mom shoved the TV off the shelf. It shattered across the concrete, sparks spitting. "No more. I won't hear it anymore." Dad crouched, picking up a shard. His reflection glared back at him, warped and pale. He flinched, dropped it quick. We tore through the basement, covering everything reflective: mirrors, photo frames, even the metal clock face. Blankets, tape, cardboard. By the end, the room looked blind. But the air still carried that low chant. When the others dozed, I sat awake, knees pulled to my chest. The leaflet burned in my pocket. I unfolded it again, tracing the black stamped eye. Failure to comply is punishable by exposure. Punishment, exposure. The words tangled, meaningless and absolute. My gaze slid to the covered window. Behind the blinds, faint light pulsed in rhythm with my heart. What if all these rules weren't for safety, but to keep us docile? What if looking was the only way to understand? I clenched the leaflet until it tore in my hands. The hum answered with a slow, steady beat, patient as breathing. The basement reeked of metal and mildew, every breath heavy with damp. We'd blinded the room, yet the hum still pressed in, steady as a second heartbeat. A knock echoed from above, not frantic, measured. Dad's hand froze over the flashlight. "Neighbors," Mom whispered. We crept to the stairwell. A voice carried down, too calm for a night like this. "It's Mark, from 3B. Our neighbor." I pictured him on the stoop, smoke curling from his lips, always muttering about antennas. Dad cracked the hatch. Mark stood in the hall, hair wild, eyes red-rimmed. He held a leaflet between two fingers like proof of salvation. "They're lying," he said. Dad's voice was flat. "Go back inside." Mark shook his head, grin crooked. I looked, just a glimpse, and I'm fine. My chest locked. "No one's fine." Mark leaned closer, whispering like a secret. "It's beautiful. The tower, it wants us. Not death, connection." My sister whimpered. Mom clutched her tight. Dad slammed the hatch. "He's gone already." But his steps didn't leave. They padded across the ceiling, slow, deliberate. Then came the rasp of blinds sliding open. "Don't!" Dad roared, pounding the wall. A scream ripped through the building, jagged, human for only half a second. Then silence. We held our breath, waiting. Finally, Mom whispered, "What happened?" No one answered. I climbed, cracked the hatch an inch. The hallway was empty. The blinds in 3B swayed, pale light bleeding through. Mark's leaflet lay torn, the stamped black I split across the floor. No body, no trace, just absence. I shut the hatch fast while clawing my throat. "He's not there," I whispered. "He's just gone." That night, the building groaned like it knew he'd vanished. The hum deepened, pipes rattling with each pulse. Shadows stretched thin along the walls, reaching too far. My sister whispered against my sleeve. "He said he was fine." "He wasn't," I said quick, like saying it sharp enough could make it true. Her voice quavered. "What if it doesn't kill you right away? What if it changes you?" I had no answer. Restless, I crept back to the hatch while the others dozed. The hall swam in dim light, edges blurred like a picture fading out. A faint smear dragged toward Mark's apartment, black and gritty, like soot or ash. I shut the hatch tight, palms sweating. Then I dragged boxes against the basement door, taped cracks in the walls, shoved blankets into vents. Futile work, but it gave my hands something to do, like building a dam with paper cups. Still, the hum poured through. The next broadcast slammed alive on every device. TV, radios, even dead appliances hissing static. The voice had sunk lower, stripped of humanity. "Rule violators will not return. Do not test compliance. Do not look at the tower." Mom covered her ears, rocking. Dad paced, jaw clenched so hard it clicked. But all I heard was Mark's whisper, "It's beautiful." He hadn't begged. He hadn't screamed until the end. He'd sounded free. I hated myself for wondering what he saw. By day, I searched the hall with a dying flashlight. Mark's door hung open. Inside, radio guts littered the floor, wires tangled like veins. A cigarette smoldered in an ashtray, burning itself down. The blinds flapped, pale light spilling across the boards. I kept my eyes low, but even the edges bent wrong, light dragging too far, smearing like wet paint. The hum pulsed stronger, tugging thoughts loose. I yanked the blinds shut, heart hammering. Then I saw the wall. 3 words scrawled in black marker, letters slashed deep into plaster. "We belong there." The handwriting was crooked, familiar, but it twisted in ways no hand should move, the lines wavering like they'd been dragged by something underneath. I bolted. Back in the basement, Dad spotted the dust on my shoes. "You went out." "Just the hall," I said, too fast. His eyes sharpened. "If you want to die like him, just say it. Don't drag us down with you." I opened my mouth, heat rising, but Mom cut in, voice cracking. "Stop! You'll tear us apart. Don't you see that's what it wants?" Her words hung in the stale air, sharper than any shout. The walls felt tighter. My sister pressed into me, shaking. I whispered the only words that fit, as if repeating them could guard us. "Don't look at the tower." But each time I said it, the last word clung, louder in my head. "Look." That evening, another leaflet slid against the window grate, pushed by the wind. Caught it, hands trembling. The rules had shifted. Mandatory directive, amended. Do not look at the tower. Do not record, photograph, or reflect the tower. Do not speak of what you see. Witnesses of violators must report. Failure is punishable by exposure. Report. The word chilled me deeper than exposure. They wanted us watching each other, policing each other. I stuffed the leaflet in my pocket, praying no one else had read it. That night, voices rose upstairs, neighbors shouting, doors slamming. Then silence. No footsteps, no breathing, just the hum filling every gap. My sister whispered in the dark, "What if we're the only ones left?" I didn't answer, because the truth was worse. We weren't alone. The tower was waiting, and it was patient. By the third day, the basement smelled of sweat and rust. The air was heavy, every breath sour. Our supplies had shrunk to crumbs and a few cans. Dad stacked the tins in a line, voice clipped. 2 days left, maybe one. Mom sat apart, knees drawn tight, staring at the floor like it might open and swallow her. She barely spoke anymore. My sister's stomach growled loud. I heard myself say it before I could stop. "I'll go out again." Dad's head snapped up. "No, not this time. Then we starve." He studied me a moment, eyes bloodshot. Then he looked away. 1 hour, not more. The streets had gone hollow. Cars rusted where they'd stopped. Windows gaped open, curtains fluttering weakly. Leaflets carpeted the pavement. I picked one up. Same black stamped eye, but new rules sprawled below. Additional directive. 6. Do not attempt to leave the quarantine zone. 7. Report non-compliant neighbors immediately. My chest tightened. Protection wasn't the point. This was a cage. A shout split the stillness. "Help! Please!" I ducked behind a car. Across the street, a man stumbled from a doorway, blindfolded with a strip of shirt. His arms flailed, knees buckling. I didn't look, I swear. Shadows slanted toward him, unnaturally long. The hum swelled, vibrating up through the pavement. He screamed once, then vanished, yanked backward into nothing. The blindfold had meant nothing. The grocery store reeked of rot. Milk had curdled into yellow sludge. Rats scattered, their claws skittering sharp against tile. I grabbed cans, bottles, bread stiff as stone. My hands shook so bad I dropped half of it. Then I saw the words. On the freezer wall, spray painted in jagged red, "Look or starve." The paint dripped like blood. I bolted. Back in the basement, Dad ripped through the bag, relief flickering before suspicion hardened. "What did you see?" "Nothing." Mom's eyes cut to me, hollow and sharp. "You're bringing it in with you. I can feel it on you." My sister clutched my arm. "Don't fight," she whispered. The hum pressed closer, rattling pipes, feeding off the cracks between us. That night, fists pounded upstairs. We crept to the hatch. A crowd jammed the hall. Half a dozen neighbors, faces pale, eyes fevered. Mrs. Ramirez waved a leaflet like scripture. "You read the rules. We're supposed to report violators. Someone's been looking." A man's voice rang out. "It's them. 1A. I saw the boy near Mark's door." Ice crawled up my spine. Dad hissed through the hatch. "We followed the rules." "Then prove it," Ramirez snapped. "Open up. Show us your windows." My sister whimpered. Mom clutched her tighter. Dad gripped the hatch with white knuckles. "No one comes in." The crowd murmured, restless, blending with the tower's low hum. Then footsteps faded, but not far. They lingered, waiting. We stayed awake, listening to their shifting weight overhead. In the dark, Mom whispered, "They'll turn us in." Dad's voice was low, brittle. "Let them try." But his eyes betrayed fear. The next morning, screams tore through the building. I cracked the hatch. 2 men wrestled in the hall, one clawing at the other's blindfold. "He looked," someone shouted. The cloth slipped. A slash of pale light spilled in. The man convulsed, body jerking, mouth open in a soundless scream. When it ended, only his shoes remained. The others stared, silent, until someone muttered, "He broke the rules." They scattered, leaving the hall smeared with ash. I shut the hatch fast. That night, the broadcast came again. The voice was warped, layered with static, threaded with the tower's hum. The tower grows. Obedience ensures survival. Do not look. Do not question. Do not resist. Mom rocked, hands over her ears. Dad sat stiff, wrench in his lap, staring blank. My sister whispered, "It's lying, isn't it?" I didn't answer. Mark's voice rang clearer than the broadcast. "It's beautiful." Later, while they slept, I crept to the window. The blinds rattled, pale light bleeding through the gaps. The hum called, low and patient. My reflection stared back at me, skin waxy, eyes sunken. I pressed my forehead to the frame, whispering the rule like a charm, "Don't look at the tower." But the last word echoed louder in my skull. "Look." By dusk, the neighbors were back. Their voices seeped through the ceiling, urgent, fractured. Then the banging started, shaking dust down on us. Dad's hand tightened on the wrench. "They're circling for prey, and they've picked us." Mom's whisper cracked. "Not prey, witnesses. They've been watching since day one." The hum pressed thicker, not just sound but weight, sinking into my chest. From the stairwell came shouts. "He looked. I saw him." Another voice snapped back. "Liar. You're hiding yourself." The hall erupted, fists thudding, with splintering bodies slamming walls. Dad eased the hatch open an inch. We peered into chaos. Neighbors clawing at blindfolds, raking nails across faces. Mrs. Ramirez shrieked above the din, clutching a leaflet. "Report them! Report them all!" Then a window shattered. Light flooded the floor, cold and pale. One man seized, spine arching, limbs jerking before he crumbled into nothing. The others froze, silence thick, then scattered, screaming, leaving ash like smeared fingerprints on the boards. Dad slammed the hatch, wrench clattering to the floor. His face was gray. "They'll tear us apart before the tower does." We spent the night listening to the building eat itself alive. Screams flared and cut short. Doors banged open and closed. Then nothing but the low thrumming beneath it all. My sister pressed into me, trembling. "They're disappearing one by one." Mom stroked her hair, words flat, desperate. "Not us. We follow the rules. That's all that matters." But her fingers shook against my sister's head. I whispered the same words back, though they already felt like lies. Near midnight, the broadcast bled through the walls, not from devices but from the building itself vibrating like a drum. Compliance failing, quarantine unstable, witnesses failing to report. Consequences will escalate. The voice fractured, static and hum layered until it barely sounded human. Dad muttered, voice raw, "It isn't warning us anymore, it's keeping score." No one corrected him. At dawn, I slipped out. The hall stank of iron and mold. Clothes lay crumpled, shoes abandoned, husks of lives erased. Graffiti covered the walls in frantic scrawls. Report or be taken. Eyes are safety. Look is truth. The words clashed, contradicting each other, voices shouting from the plaster. I stopped outside Mark's door. His message still scarred the wall. We belong there. I pressed my palm to the letters. The lines were rough, but under my skin they seemed to pulse faintly, like veins still alive. And for a heartbeat, the message wasn't his. It was mine. The hum swelled, eager, like it had heard me claim it. I tore my hand away and stumbled back to the hatch. Dad saw the dust on my shoes. His voice cut sharp. "You went out again. Only the hall. You keep dragging it back inside." Mom's head jerked up, eyes wide. "He's right. Clings to you. You smell of it." I snapped, louder than I meant. "What else do you want me to do? Let us rot down here?" Mom flinched, cradling her head. My sister tugged at my sleeve, whispering, "Don't fight. It's listening." Silence dropped like a hammer. The hum filled the gap, pulsing with what felt like amusement. By afternoon, the neighbors returned. Voices outside the hatch, low, dangerous. Ramirez again, words trembling. "We know you've been out. If we don't act, we'll all be taken." Dad pressed his back to the hatch, wrench raised. "You open this door, you doom us all." Another voice hissed, "Better you than us." Wood splintered. Pressure forced the hatch open. Light spilled in, spilling across the basement floor. Ramirez screamed as her blindfold slipped. Her body convulsed, twisting, then vanished into nothing. The others scattered, shrieking, leaving a single leaflet drifting in the draft. Caught it, hands shaking. Mandatory directive, final notice. 8. Non-compliance equals exposure. 9. Reporting no longer required. All will be observed. All will be observed. My stomach knotted cold. That night, Dad tried to repair the hatch, hammering bent nails into splintered wood. The noise sounded too loud, like announcing our presence. "Pointless," Mom muttered. She sat on the floor, rocking slightly. "It sees through walls, through us." Dad slammed the hammer down. "I need to do something." The boards groaned under each strike. The hum pulsed in rhythm, mocking his effort. The building had gone eerily quiet. No more neighbors' voices, no footsteps, just the low throb that shook dust from the ceiling beams. Mom whispered, "What if the rules never mattered? What if they were only bait?" Dad stared at the leaflet in his hands, lips moving without sound. His eyes were empty, as if the words were burrowing straight into him. My sister leaned against me, calm as sleep. "It wants us to look." Her voice was so soft, so certain, that it hollowed me out. I lay awake, clutching the leaflet. "All will be observed." The words echoed until they weren't words anymore but a command written under my skin. If it already saw us, then the rules were shackles, not safety. Maybe Mark was right. Maybe looking was release. The blinds rattled in the draft. Pale light slid through the cracks, slow and deliberate. I whispered the rule again, "Don't look at the tower." But the last word stuck on my tongue like a promise. Look, the next night, the broadcast didn't ride radios or screens. It rode us. The hum swelled until my molars ached. Then words braided through it, not heard but felt in marrow. Containment has failed. Quarantine dissolves. All eyes belong. Mom shrieked, clutching her temples. Dad staggered back, wrench slipping from his grip. My sister's lips moved in sync with the voice, eyes unfocused, as if she'd been waiting to mouth those words. I pressed my palms to my ears, but the sound pulsed through blood, each syllable a drumbeat in my chest. When it stopped, silence cut like a blade. Dad rasped, "It's over. There are no rules left." Mom's voice broke into a hiss. "It's inside us now, breathing with us." I wanted to tell her she was wrong, but the words "all eyes belong" still echoed in my skull like a brand. By morning, the city had changed shape. Through slits in the blinds, pale ridges jutted into the skyline. They weren't buildings but roots, thrusting upward, pulsing faintly like arteries. Entire blocks sagged under their weight. The air shimmered with no heat, as though the sky had folded in on itself. "It's spreading," I whispered. Dad slammed the blinds shut, eyes wide. "Don't look." His voice cracked, the command sounding more like begging. But my sister's faint smile told me she'd seen enough. Rations shrank. Half a can of beans each, scraped into dented bowls. Dad muttered, "Enough for tonight." After that, he trailed off, words failing him. Mom pushed her portion away. "It tastes like rust." "Eat it," Dad barked. Her eyes flashed. "It isn't food anymore. It's rot, just like the air." I forced mine down, choking on sour paste that clung to my tongue like ash. Later, the hum changed pitch. Not sound anymore, pressure bending words into our skulls. Observation complete. Integration begins. Pipes groaned overhead. Dust drifted in sheets. My sister tilted her head, almost listening. "It's speaking to us now." Dad snapped, "Shut your mouth." His voice cracked like brittle wood. She only smiled. That night, I risked the hatch. The hall wasn't a hall anymore. A pale film coated the walls, thin as frost but pulsing with the tower's rhythm. Shapes bulged against it. Faces, hands, pressing outward before dissolving back into the film. My stomach lurched. I slammed the hatch, gagging. Dad gripped my shoulders. "What did you see?" "Nothing." His grip tightened. "Don't lie." Mom yanked him off, voice sharp, near panic. "He's already carrying it back in. Can't you smell it on him?" I shouted without meaning to. "What else do you want me to do? Let us rot in here." Mom flinched, staring at the spreading crack in the wall. The frost bled through there too. A thin web stretched across concrete, pulsing faintly like veins under skin. We scrambled, taping cardboard, jamming rags, hammering boards. Dad hammered nails until sparks flew, breath ragged. "If it gets through, we're already gone." The hum swelled, almost mocking. Hours later, the building vibrated again. No more shelters, no more blindfolds. Integration is mercy. The voice wasn't a warning anymore. It was a promise. Mom dropped to her knees, sobbing, muttering prayers that tangled into nonsense. Dad sat rigid, wrench slack in his lap. His lips moved silently, as if bargaining. My sister hummed low, keeping rhythm with the tower's pulse. That night, I dreamed the frost had crept across the basement walls, crawling over me, seeping into my skin. The words etched themselves across my arms in black veins. "We belong there." I woke gasping. My sister sat awake, eyes calm. "You saw it," she whispered. I didn't answer. Her voice was quiet, almost tender. "It's not killing us. It's bringing us home." The words chilled me worse than any threat. By morning, the city groaned, a sound like stones splitting cracked through the streets. I dared the blinds again. The tower loomed higher, its sides sprouting jagged limbs that tore through rooftops and streets. Buildings bowed under the weight, glass shattering like brittle shells. A helicopter dipped low, spraying mist. One pale limb arced upward and swatted it from the air. The wreck spun into fire across the block. The hum throbbed deep enough to rattle marrow. Dad yanked me back, voice hoarse. "Don't look. You can't." But I saw the hunger in his eyes. He wanted to. He wanted it as badly as I did. That night, frost advanced across the basement wall, branching out like veins. A shape pushed through, hand, face I couldn't tell, then smeared back. Mom rocked in the corner, muttering prayers through clenched teeth. Dad sat limp, staring at the final notice leaflet like it was scripture. and my sister lay humming softly, eyes closed, smile faint. I gripped the leaflet until the paper tore in my fist. All will be observed. The words didn't sound like a rule anymore. They sounded like truth. If we were already seen, then resisting was meaningless. Mark's voice echoed. It's beautiful. It wants connection. Maybe he hadn't been lying. I closed my eyes, but pale light still burned through the lids, steady as breath. By nightfall, the wall wasn't stone anymore. Frost veins had thickened, threading across concrete like roots under skin. They pulsed not just with light but with pressure, like a second heartbeat pressing against mine. Each pulse made the boards bend outward. Nails squealed as though they wanted release. Dad hammered another plank, his good hand trembling, sweat dripping from his chin. If we stop now, it swallows us whole. We keep the line. The frost shuddered beneath his strike, forcing the wood outward. The nail hissed loose. His words collapsed with it. Mom pressed her palms to her face. It's already here. You're just hammering shadows. Dad spun on her, veins standing in his neck. If we let go, it takes us faster. You want that? Her voice split, sharp and wet with fear. You can't nail shut a storm. Silence fell. For a heartbeat, even the hum paused, as though listening. Then it surged deeper, a vibration that rattled the canned food on the shelves. Shapes pressed against the frost, faces stretched wide, eyes hollow, mouths moving in silent chorus. My sister stared openly. They're not suffering, she said softly. They're inviting us. Dad's hand clamped her shoulder hard. Don't you dare look. His voice cracked. She turned, calm as ice. I want to hear them. That calm broke him more than any scream. The building groaned above. Glass rained down. Steel shrieked. I climbed the hatch for a look. The hallway was gone, replaced by pale film stretching across the doorframes. It rippled when I breathed on it. Shapes bulged through, pressing outward, hands that reached but never broke free. Scorched ash littered the floor like someone had been burned away. I slammed the hatch shut. They're gone, I whispered. The whole building's gone. Dad shook his head violently, like denial alone could hold it off. We're not yet. But even he couldn't meet my eyes. The final notice leaflet lay on the floor, ink blurring. The stamped I smeared into nothing. All will be observed. My thumb rubbed the fading words until the paper tore. If we'd already been seen, then the rules weren't barriers. They were theater. Sleep came like drowning. I dreamed the frost crawled inside me, branching through lungs, veins, bone. Voices whispered in the marrow, hundreds, not pained but warm. Welcome. I woke choking, throat raw. My sister was beside me, watching. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. You heard them. I didn't answer. She leaned closer. It's not ending us. It's making us part of something larger. The certainty in her voice chilled me worse than the dream. By morning, the frost had won. A board cracked, nails skittering across the floor. Dad lunged, trying to jam it back. The frost flexed and splinters burst, slicing his palm. Blood dripped onto the pale ridges. They drank it greedily, veins flaring brighter. He staggered back, clutching his hand. Mom's scream tore through the room. Don't you see? It feeds on us. Dad's face hollowed. He whispered, then we give it nothing. But the blood was already gone. The broadcast erupted, no static, just thunder that cracked inside bone. Integration has begun. Resistance null. The words weren't heard. They were carved inside us. Mom collapsed, muttering prayers that tangled into sobs. Dad stared at the frost wall, lips trembling, wrench limp in his lap. My sister tilted her head like she was listening to a lullaby. I held the leaflet scraps. The eye was gone, paper thin as skin. The words surfaced on their own, all eyes belong. This time I whispered them aloud. They felt natural in my mouth. The breach widened. Tendrils of frost snaked across the floor, curling like fingers, reaching for us. Mom scrambled into a corner, wailing. Dad swung his wrench, smashing them into shards, but the shards reformed, pulsing stronger. "They're using us," I muttered. My sister's gaze was steady. "They're saving us." A tendril brushed my shoe. Cold bled through leather, soaking into bone. I didn't pull away. The roof cracked, dust poured down, then steel screamed and caved. Light, pale, sickly, flooded through a jagged hole. Tower ridges pierced straight into the building, like roots anchoring into earth. The hum deepened into a rhythm like a heartbeat. Dad collapsed, clutching his head. "The line's gone." Mom's voice broke into a shriek. "You can't fight what's already inside." Her words dissolved into sobs. The frost surged faster, crawling up the walls, threading across the floor. Faces swelled through, mouths moving in perfect sync. Mark's face blinked at me from the frost. Skin pale, eyes black pits, lips moving silently. My gut clenched. My sister stepped forward. Dad caught her arm, wrench raised. For a moment I thought he'd swing. Instead, his grip slackened. The wrench fell. He whispered, "It's already taken us." The hum swelled. Frost tendrils reached my wrist. For the first time, the voice wasn't outside. It whispered from inside the frost, directly into me. "Stop pretending. You've always belonged." Cold sank into bone. My pulse stuttered, falling into rhythm with the towers. I closed my eyes. The leaflet's words returned, etched in darkness. "All eyes belong." And for the first time, I believed them. The basement cracked at dawn. A sound like vertebrae snapping rolled through the concrete. Frost split wide, boards flying in splinters. Faces pressed through, stretched and twitching, before the wall burst into a storm of pale shards. The hum thundered inside us. Shelter dissolved. All eyes belong. Tendrils whipped across the floor, curling toward us. Dad seized my arm, bloodied hand trembling. "We can't hold it. We move now." Mom's sobs cracked into a broken laugh. "Move where? It's already breathing through the walls." The frost crawled across the ceiling, veins branching like a map. We ran. Up the hatch into a hallway that had liquefied. No plaster, no paint, just translucent skin shivering when we passed. Hands bulged outward, palms smearing before sinking back. I froze when one face pushed close. Mrs. Powell, her cheeks sagged, lips shaping my name before she dissolved back into the film. My stomach lurched. Dad yanked me forward, voice hoarse. "Don't look. Don't listen." But his own eyes stayed locked on the wall. Outside was worse. The sky was milk, depthless and wrong. Pale light flattened everything, shadows blurred like wet ink. And the tower, it had devoured the skyline. Whole blocks hung grafted into its ribs. Streets coiled upward like veins. Windows and rooftops jutted out like fossils embedded in bone. Every surface contracted and released like the city itself had become a lung. Mom crumpled to her knees. It swallowed everything. My sister lifted her face to the glow. "No, it's showing us where we belong." Sirens shrieked, jagged and desperate. A loudspeaker cracked through the air. Mandatory blindfolds, evacuation underway, repeat, blindfolds. The words fractured into a shriek, replaced by the tower's hum. Dad's jaw clenched. They're still out there, thinking orders matter. His voice broke into a bitter laugh. Orders won't stop this. We picked through the streets. Pavement buckled, storefronts tilted, cars sat frozen in ice. A bus lay jackknifed into a shop front. Its windows were veiled white, bodies visible inside, faces pressed to glass, mouths open. Mom whispered, "They froze standing up, but they moved." Every head turned toward me, mouths forming the same silent word. Closer. The sound struck inside my skull. I staggered back. My sister's smile was faint, certain. They're waiting for us. Gunfire cracked from ahead. Soldiers in gas masks fired at tendrils crawling across the street. Bullets shattered them, but the frost reknit instantly, wrapping boots, climbing fast. One soldier shrieked, jerking as it threaded into his leg. Another tried to cut him loose, but both were dragged down, swallowed in seconds. Their screams dissolved into silence. Only a helmet rolled across the asphalt. Dad pulled us back. If we go near them, it takes us too. The hum pulsed louder, as though mocking his caution. We slipped into an alley. The air stank of ozone and copper. Trash bags had melted into slime. A cat lay stiff in the corner, fur bleached white, eyes black pits. Mom's voice trembled. "There's nowhere it hasn't touched." Dad barked, brittle. "As long as we're still moving, it hasn't taken us." Her laugh cracked. "You can't outrun something that grows through your veins." The hum vibrated the bricks as if agreeing. At the alley's end, a man floated 6 feet above the ground, suspended in threads of frost. His chest rose faintly, each breath synced to the tower's pulse. Veins of light spidered through his skin. Dad whispered, "Don't watch." But I couldn't tear my gaze away. His lips moved. "All eyes belong." The voice slid directly into my mind, smooth and certain. I stumbled, clutching my head. My sister steadied me. "It hurts less if you let it in." Her hand was warm, steady. Mom slapped it away, voice jagged. "Don't touch him. You're already one of them." My sister's eyes reflected the pale glow. "Maybe that's better." We pushed into another street, but it had been remade. Where asphalt had been, a gulf opened wide, lined with ridges that contracted like jaws. Inside, shapes writhed, human, elongated, writhing in rhythm. The hum deepened, rattling teeth. Dad staggered back. "That's no road." But I heard Mark's voice rising from the pit, threaded with static. "It isn't a mouth. It's a gate." My knees buckled. We ran. Streets folded into dead ends, alleys sealed with film. Every wall we passed bulged with faces, whispering belong. The hum beat faster, sinking to my pulse until I couldn't tell which was mine. I clutched the scraps of the leaflet to my chest. The paper had nearly dissolved, but the words lived on. "All will be observed." I whispered them without thinking. The sound steadied me. We collapsed inside a ruined church. Pews splintered, altar cracked, frost crawling over stone. The crucifix lay half-buried, pale wax melted across Christ's face, pulsing faintly in rhythm. Mom dropped to the shattered altar, scraping at the cross with bloodied nails. "God's house, please, please, don't let it in." Her sobs twisted into wordless sounds. Dad slumped into a pew, hand wrapped in filthy cloth. His eyes were hollow. "It's stronger here, like it wanted this place most." My sister touched the frost-veined altar. Her voice was reverent. "It claimed this place first. That's why it feels holy." Her certainty cut deeper than Mom's despair. The hum swelled, filling the church until the walls vibrated. The doors rattled, pale light bleeding through the cracks. I clutched the leaflet scraps. The paper flaked apart, but the words burned clearer than ever in my skull. I whispered them, voice trembling but steadying as they left me. All eyes belong. And for the first time, I didn't know if I meant it as resistance or prayer. The church walls shuddered like ribs under strain. Dust rained from rafters. Frost webbed across the cracked tiles, each vein flexing as if it inhaled with us. Mom clung to the altar, nails splitting. "You can't have this house. Not his house." The hum rolled back, not thunder but a tide, dragging thought toward silence. Dad pushed to his feet, wrench slipping in his bloody hand. "Get away from it!" But the frost advanced, webbing across the stone steps. The doors burst inward. Light spilled through, pale and endless, flattening the pews into silhouettes. Tendrils whipped through the air, curling around pillars until it screamed and splintered. The organ pipes shuddered. Frost threaded their hollows, and when wind rushed through, the sound twisted into a hymn of the hum, deep, resonant, irresistible. My sister stepped forward, eyes shining. "It's not desecrating, it's sanctifying." Dad caught her arm. His voice cracked raw. "Don't preach its gospel." Her gaze was steady. "You'll believe it too." The leaflet scraps burned in my pocket. "All will be observed." The paper was nearly gone, but the words felt stronger than the stone under my feet. The frost climbed Christ's face, veiling his eyes, pulsing with the tower's rhythm. Mom shrieked and clawed at it. "You can't cover his face. You can't erase him." Her blood streaked across the frost. It absorbed every drop. Her screams drowned beneath the hum. A crack tore the roof. Through it, the tower's limb punched down, ridged, jagged, white as bone. It slammed into the nave, shattering pews into splinters. We stumbled back. Dad swung the wrench in his good hand. The strike rang out like a bell, echoing uselessly. The limb curled and flicked. He flew across the church, slammed into stone, coughing red. "Dad!" My throat tore. He tried to rise, but his legs collapsed. His eyes locked on mine, wild. Don't give it your eyes." The limb reared again. Mom flung herself in front of him, arms wide. "Take me. Leave him." Frost swarmed her instantly, sheathing her skin like quicksilver glass. Her scream was high, piercing, then gone. A hollow figure stood in her place, eyes blank, mouth parted in frozen prayer. The hum deepened like a satisfied breath. My knees buckled. My sister knelt beside the husk, touching its cheek. "She isn't gone. She's home." Dad spat blood, voice ragged. "That's not home. It's a coffin." She looked at him with pity. "You're clinging to dust. She's freer than we are." Her serenity made my stomach turn. The leaflet crumbled in my fist, flaking away like ash. But the words burned brighter inside me. I whispered them before I realized. "All eyes belong." Dad's head snapped. His stare was raw, desperate. "No, don't let it plant itself in you. That's how it wins." But the phrase sat on my tongue like it had always been mine. The roof split wider. Stained glass shattered into a rain of knives. Through the wound in the sky, I saw it. The tower stretched forever, ribs splitting the horizon, roots writhing through the streets. Districts clung to its sides like barnacles. Each surface contracted and released, not pulsing now but breathing. The last scraps of leaflet fell from my hand, disintegrating before they touched the ground. Still, the words thundered in my chest. Then a new whisper. One look, that's all. One look and you'll never feel alone again. It wasn't command, it was promise. I staggered, clutching my head. Dad crawled toward me, leaving a smear of blood. His voice was shredded, frantic. Don't trust it. One look and it owns you. The limb slammed down between us, splitting the tiles, frost surging to drag him back. Dad! His eyes caught mine, desperate and shining. Fight it! Tendrils coiled him like rope, hauling him into the crack. His wrench clattered across stone. Then he was gone. Silence save the hum. The church was a skeleton, ribs of stone veined in frost. My sister stood in the pale glow, hands clasped like in prayer. It spared us. Do you see? It wants us. My chest heaved. Spared. Her voice was tender, certain, prepared. Her eyes glimmered white, not with reflection but with belonging. The hum thickened, tugging thought into its rhythm. Just one look, then no more fear, no more loss, only union. The light through the roof pulled at my face, tugging my gaze upward. All eyes belong, I whispered again. This time the words felt less like surrender and more like release. My sister reached out her hand. Don't fight it anymore. Take my hand. Look with me. Her palm was warm, steady, human. The frost glimmered across the altar, Christ's eyes erased, his mouth stretched in silent imitation of the others. The hum surged, steady as heartbeat, patient as tide. I lifted my gaze, not yet to the light but close. My pulse stumbled into rhythm with it. My breath came shallow, tethered to its pull. The promise beat inside my skull. One look, that's all. And I hung there, trembling, caught between the ruin of my family and the invitation of the tower. For the first time, I wasn't sure if I had the strength not to look. The church had no roof anymore. The limb that ripped it open withdrew, leaving a jagged wound that leaked pale light. Frost webbed the rafters, flexing slow, not pulsing but inhaling, like the whole building was a lung borrowing mine. My sister's hand hovered, steady. You don't have to be afraid. Just look. It's already inside us. Her calmness cracked me worse than Mom's screams or Dad's blood. I wanted to take her hand. I wanted to break it. Instead, I stood frozen, ribs tightening in the hum's rhythm. The air pressed thick, metallic. Each inhale filled with grit. Each exhale scraped out like smoke. The tower's whisper tugged behind my eyes. One look, that's all. Then no more fear. I clenched my fists until my nails split skin. Blood slicked my palms, sharp enough to cut through the fog, but only for a heartbeat. Because when I blinked, I saw Mark's face burned into the afterimage. His grin stretched wider than it should. You'll see, he said from memory, or maybe from the tower itself. The doors banged open. 2 soldiers stumbled in, masks cracked, uniforms frosted stiff. One raised his rifle, voice strangled. Stay back. Don't lift your eyes. My sister laughed softly. Too late. He already hears it. The soldier's aim wavered. Shut up. Blindfold. Where's your blindfold? The other grabbed his shoulder, voice breaking. Save your ammo. You can't shoot what's in their heads. Both were trembling. I couldn't tell if from cold or dread. The hum surged, drowning their words. Tendrils lashed through the open roof, stone bursting apart. The first soldier screamed and opened fire. Muzzle flashes stuttered across frost that healed before the shells hit the floor. A tendril coiled him, yanking him upward. He shrieked until his voice cut into static, vanishing into light. The hum throbbed deep, like a satisfied breath. My sister whispered, "It doesn't kill, it carries." I backed to the altar, chest heaving. The crucifix was veiled in frost, Christ's eyes erased, mouth warped wide. I whispered, "All eyes belong." The word steadied me or hollowed me, couldn't tell. My sister touched my cheek, warm, steady. "You've spoken it enough. Stop resisting." Her calm sounded like mercy. But I heard Dad's voice crack inside memory. Don't let it eat your eyes. Don't." It bled into the tower's whisper. "One look, that's all." The two voices fought in my skull, one jagged, one smooth. The hum thickened until my teeth ached. Frost threaded across my boots, climbing. My calves numbed, veins stiff as glass. My sister smiled, serene. "It's filling you. Why fight what you already are?" I couldn't answer. I felt it in me. Every heartbeat borrowed, every breath no longer mine. Stones screamed overhead. The spire cracked, toppled inward, smashing pews in an explosion of dust. Through the wound above, the tower leaned close. For the first time, its surface shifted, not just breathing but crawling. Faces rippled across it, layered and endless, mouths moving in chorus. Mark, Mrs. Powell, soldiers, Mom, Dad, all pressed there, their eyes black pits, lips opening and closing to the rhythm. "Look." The word struck like thunder, rattling marrow. I staggered, clutching my skull. "Stop!" My sister's voice was soft, almost a hymn. "It isn't hurting you, it's unveiling you." Her pupils had dissolved, replaced with milky light. "When you see, you'll understand." Her certainty made Bal burn my throat. The second soldier stumbled forward, a blindfold tied jagged across his face. His hands groped for me. "Don't look," his voice cracked. "Blindfold's the only wall left. Tie it tight. Tie it until you can't breathe." My sister stepped between us, smile faint. "He wants you caged. The tower wants you whole." The soldier shook his head violently, breath hitching. "It empties you out, leaves only the echo." He clawed his blindfold loose to prove it, then froze. His scream shriveled. Frost gushed from his eyes and mouth, hardening him mid-breath. He toppled, a brittle shell, and shattered. The hum swallowed the silence. I dropped to my knees. The leaflet was gone. Mom gone. Dad gone. Soldiers gone. All that remained was the hum, and my sister's hand, steady as stone. "Don't make this harder," she whispered. "One look, we'll go together." Her words pierced deeper than any tendril. I raised my head, stopping just shy of the light. Every muscle shook. My body wanted to rise, my spine to straighten, my eyes to open. The tower's promise crowded my skull. No fear, no loss, only union. Dad's broken voice rasped in memory, fractured. Don't give it your eyes." Two commands fought inside me, one jagged, one smooth. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the light pressed through lids, not bright but heavy, a hand behind my eyes pushing outward. The hum bent my pulse into its rhythm. My ribs rose and fell against its tide. My sister's fingers slid between mine, warm. "You're already leaning," she whispered. "Why stop now?" Her words landed like scripture. My knees locked, my head tilted. I opened my eyes to the edge of the light. And for the first time, my body betrayed me. I leaned. The light wasn't light anymore. It had weight, like molten glass poured behind my eyes. My vision strained against it, but the pressure slid inward, filling skull and marrow. My sister's hand stayed locked on mine, steady, warm, unshaking. "Don't fight," she whispered. "It only hurts if you fight." The hum swelled, not sound, but a tide dragging through bone. My heart stumbled, then found its rhythm inside it. Dad's voice broke across memory. Don't give it your... The words snapped apart, fragments shattered by the choir of faces swelling across the tower's surface. They weren't screaming, they were singing. The faces opened their mouths in unison. Words spilled, layered and endless. All eyes belong. My chest heaved. I tried to shut my eyes, but they clung open, pinned upward. I can't, I whispered. You already did, my sister murmured. The frost surged across the floor, swallowing pews, curling around the altar. The crucifix groaned, its arms bent back, its mouth stretched too wide. The hum grew heavier, dragging the wood beneath me into shivering splinters. Look, the word wasn't sound, it was compulsion. The faces twisted, folding and reforming. Dad's mouth opened, his eyes black voids. Don't eat your eyes. Then his face melted into Mark's grin, split ear to ear. See, it doesn't hurt. My sister tilted her head toward the tower. Her pupils dissolved. Her eyes glowed like mirrors. It's better when you stop pretending. The hum drove higher, each beat jagged in my teeth. My fists clenched, blood slicking palms. If I look, do I disappear? She squeezed my hand. No, you arrive. The word settled into me, sweet and cold. Something cracked inside my skull, like a frozen lake splitting wide. My voice rose unbidden. All eyes belong. And suddenly I wasn't kneeling in the church anymore. I stood at the tower's base. Its surface rippled like liquid stone. The faces weren't strangers now. They were everyone, neighbors, teachers, my parents, even myself. Every mouth opened in rhythm. Look, couldn't breathe. I lifted my eyes. The tower leaned, swallowing sky. A seam split opened down its length, vertical, infinite. Inside was no light, only depth, black, starless, endless. It wanted me. I screamed, but the sound folded back, swallowed whole. My sister's voice echoed near, though I couldn't see her. You're already inside. The seam widened, faces melting into its blackness, their chorus swelling. All eyes belong. Something pulled me forward. My legs obeyed, not me. I clawed at my face, trying to shut my eyes, but my arms froze inches away. The hum had me. The hum had everything. Inside the seam, visions flared. Streets lined with frozen shells, mouths open mid-breath. Soldiers dissolving into snow as they fired. Blindfolded convoys clawing their eyes raw in ditches. My sister walking upward, body splitting into frost as she laughed. And worst, myself, already among the faces, my mouth moving in rhythm. Look, assobitori frumi. I don't want to die as a mouth in the wall. The voices answered, endless. You already are. The seam shuddered. The hum broke into a jagged screech, then silence. I was back on the church floor. The roof stood whole, the crucifix untouched. The air was still. Only the crackle of the radio on the altar. I crawled toward it. Static hissed, broken by a monotone voice. This is an emergency alert. Do not. The voice warped, stretched into the choir. Do not look. Do not look. I smashed the radio. The chant didn't stop. It seeped from the walls, from my chest. Do not look at the tower. I stumbled outside. Dawn bled red across the skyline. And there it was. The tower. Closer, so close it filled the horizon. Every window reflected it. Every shadow bent toward it. I whispered, "Don't look." But the words weren't mine. They tasted wrong, metallic. The street was full of statues, neighbors, strangers, soldiers. They all faced the tower. Their mouths moved. "Do not look." The same rhythm I spoke. I covered my eyes with my palms, sobbing, "Stop, please stop." But the chant rolled on, through me, around me. Somewhere inside, a door opened. Behind it, voices waited. "Mom, Dad, Mark, my sister." They whispered, "Don't warn them. Invite them." I screamed until my throat shredded, but the sound wasn't mine anymore. It was theirs. I ripped my shirt, blindfolding myself, rocked on my knees. I won't. But the words bent mid-breath, twisting into the chant. All eyes belong. I pressed my ears shut. The chant kept coming. It wasn't in the air. It was in me. The broadcast restarted, far away, carried on towers and radios across the city. The same words from the first night. "This is not a test. Do not look at the tower." But underneath, layered, unmistakable, my own voice. Repeating, breading. I tied the cloth tighter, darkness sealing in, but the light pulsed behind it, patient. Waiting. I knew it wouldn't need to wait long, because every time I whispered, "Do not look," my lips stretched into a smile I couldn't stop. And every time I blinked, I felt myself leaning. Do not look. Do not listen. Already, too many voices hum in unison. Eyes fixed skyward, mouths bleeding. The tower feeds on attention, and soon no broadcast, no warning will keep you from turning your head. When you finally see it, you will understand. It has always been watching.